Gracias, señora. Are we live? Okay, very good. All right, okay. All right, welcome everyone. Bienvenido a todos to the Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board meeting this June 23rd, 2021. It is 6:04 p.m. All right, so we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then roll call. All right, thank you so much. All right, so we will move on to roll call. Vice President Mason. Here. Trustee Mayo. Here. Trustee Alas. Here. Trustee Nzewi. Here. Trustee McFerrin. Here. I'm also present, so we're all here and accounted for. All right. So a report out of our closed session. The first item, 7.1, was negotiations where we received information. Item 7.2, there was no item covered in that section. Item 7.3 was a hearing on appeal of complaint determination number 21-4, AR 1312.1, AR 1312.3. Motion was passed 5-0 to accept the report by the independent investigator. Item 3.4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, potential exposure to significant litigation pursuant to 54956.9A, one case. Information was provided. Item 3.5, conference with legal counsel, Government Code Section 54956.9D1, Jane Doe v. Mount Diablo Unified School District, U.S. District Court, Northern District, case number 18 CV 2589 VC. Information was provided. Item 7.6, conference with legal counsel, Government Code 54956.9D1 BL versus MDUSD USDC number 321 CV 01533. There was a motion to accept the recommendation of staff that passed with a vote of 5-0. Item 7.7, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.91 regarding SN, a minor v. MDUSD OAH case number 202-103-0757. There was a motion to accept the settlement that passed with a vote of 5-0. Lastly, we had item 7.8, the public employee performance evaluation for our superintendent pursuant to Government Code 54957. And the results of our superintendent evaluation are that we, the Mount Diablo Unified School Board, voted unanimously to give Dr. Clark a satisfactory rating on his superintendent evaluation for the 2020-2021 school year. And together we have a joint statement to share with the public. Dr. Clark skillfully guided our district through the most difficult of times. He kept a laser focus on providing excellent education to all of our students and balanced many considerations, interests, and partnerships in pursuit of that goal. He consistently demonstrated grace under pressure, patience, and persistence, and has begun to build a foundation to successfully create a more welcoming environment for all. We wholeheartedly support Dr. Clark and look forward to our continued work together in the coming year. Thank you, Dr. Clark. All right. Okay, so with that, we move on to public comment, 8.1. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a card on item 7.8. Mr. Mims. Come on up.
To the board, board president, the members of the community, and Superintendent Willie Mims, Education Chair of the East County NAACP. I wanted to say this first of all, I haven't been to a meeting in a long time. And I put speaker cards in all the time. So this is my first speaker card and it was missed. But that's all good though. So I want to commend the board. First of all, I came here to support Dr. Clark. I've been working with him for many, many years. And so I know that he's a good man. And I want to commend the board for your decision to give him a satisfactory performance rating this year. And hopefully you'll give him one next year and the year after that. So, thank you, Dr. Clark. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mims. All right. Okay, so that moves us on to public comment. 8.1, the public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. This is for items that are not currently on this agenda. So do we have any public comment? Okay, there are no comment cards for public comment today. All right. Okay, so item 9.1, communications, district organizations. Do we have any district organizations speaking today? Okay, we'll move right along into business. Okay. So item 10, recognitions and resolutions. Item 10.1 is the review and potential approval of resolution 20-21-79, excused absences for issues related to mental health. Dr. Clark.
Yes, thank you, President Cound. I want to acknowledge our student board member for continuing to keep student mental health at the forefront and for coming forward with this resolution. And so as past practices, I introduce the resolution, I read the beginning of it and I read the end of it, and then it'll be in the board's hand for consideration. So tonight, I'm bringing before you the Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board, Resolution 20/21, number 79, excuse absences for issues related to mental health. So whereas in Mount Diablo Unified School District, the mental health and well-being of students remains and will always be a top priority of this district. And whereas suicide remains the second leading cause of death for students aged 15 through 19 in the United States. And whereas MDUSD is committed to continuing district efforts to prevent, intervene early and address youth suicide, as well as creating strategic planning to enhance student wellness. So be it further resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District will work with school sites to inform all students of the ability to have excused absences for mental health reasons. I now place this resolution in the hands of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve resolution 20/21-79, excused absences for issues related to mental health.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion before we move this to a vote? Trustee Nzewi.
Oh, no, sorry. Earlier this year, we had students provide public comment urging us to support SB 14, which is a bill that would include within the meaning of an absence due to a pupil's illness, an absence for the benefit of the pupil's mental or behavioral health. And this bill is alive and well, having just passed out of the Senate unanimously, and it's making its way through the Assembly. If you remember Schoolhouse Rock, the bill is now sitting on the steps saying, and now I've got to do it on the other side. The same thing. So I'm really thankful to Anahi Nava Flores, Yaneli Martinez, Alondra Lopez, who first brought this issue to our attention back, I think, in January. And I'm so glad that not long after we honored National Children's Mental Health Day and National Mental Health Awareness Month, we're putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak. So I'm really happy to support this resolution.
All right, thank you. Shall we take it to a vote? All right, let's start with Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member / author. Thank you so much. All right. That moves us along to item 10.2, review and potential selection of the 2021-2022 student board member. Dr. Clark.
Yes, so I've never met the potential student board member. So I don't know if she is here this evening. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Please, will you please come up to the podium for one moment there, please? So so who we have here tonight for you is we have a young woman who has she went ahead and answered our call that we were in need of one of our students to come to the board and represent all of the students of Mount Diablo Unified School District and to act as a sounding board. And she filled out an application. She responded to a few essay questions, and then a committee at the district office, a mixed committee, we reviewed the applications, and due to the pandemic and all of our, our schools being in a hybrid with on Zoom calls and whatnot, we're bringing one finalist forward for consideration for the board. So again, I wanted to give her a moment to introduce herself, to tell us what school she goes to and what activities she likes to do. And then we will then leave it into the hands of the board to then make this official. So the floor is yours, young lady. You can remove your mask if you would like.
Hello, my name is Kalina Fowler. I go to College Park High School and I am now a senior. In my application, I did mention that I am the president of my school's Black Student Union. I believe some of you have came to one of our meetings via Zoom. I work at a restaurant. I am a host there. I'm really excited to be on this board. I didn't prepare anything. I wasn't
That's
sure.
fine.
So sorry about that. But I'm really happy to what I bring to the table. I bring communication amongst all students. I'm open to any ideas, and I'll give you the student's perspective and eye. As I'm a senior, I know we didn't go to school last year in person, but I do have a lot of new ideas and opinions and that I'd like to share with you, and a lot of new motions I'd like to put in place and help make the school more unified and help make the school more open to everyone of all ethnicities and sexualities and whatnot. Is there any questions you guys would like to ask me?
Go ahead.
Any questions?
Well, I am very excited to get to know you and to help prepare you for this role. Not a question, but it's an honor to meet you, and I'm very excited for what you will do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm so happy and beyond astonished that I received this. I submitted the application. I just didn't think anything of it. So I'm very excited that I was selected.
All right. Well, it sounds like we should make this official. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an easy, well, it's not a trick question. You saw how this year panned out. What made you turn in that application and want to sit up here?
My role in the Black Student Union, I feel like really pushed me to turn it in. The Black Student Union really helped me create a voice for myself and for others, and to create a community that's welcoming to all, and that we can educate ourselves amongst so many topics that need to be discussed at school, because they're pushed aside when they can't be pushed aside. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like in the Black Student Union, I really helped create a voice for the students.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the selection of Kalina Fowler as the 2021 to 2022 student board member.
And I would second that and just say I look forward to next year when we're all back and it can be all student run, the whole process. So
All right. Thank you very much. Motion by trustee Alas, second by trustee Mason, and we'll put it to a vote. Trustee Alas,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
yes,
trustee Mayo,
yes,
trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team, and feel free to reach out to any of us anytime. we look forward to you joining us and helping you get on board.
And make sure your parents call you trustee Fowler now, not Dr.
Right. And was there anyone here that you wanted to introduce? I don't know if you brought family with you or anything.
No, I came by myself. I thank you
Great.
so much, folks.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves us to item 10.3, review and potential approval of resolution 2021-80, inclusive school messaging, names and imagery. It looks like we have some speaker cards. All right, so we'll start with Meg Honey.
Good evening, President Cound, MDUSD trustees, and Dr. Clark. I'm here tonight to articulate my support for agenda item 10.3, the resolution addressing inclusive school messaging, names, and imagery. This resolution is more critical than ever, and I hope that it is approved so that parents, teachers, and site leaders will have a clear and guiding framework as we create learning communities that affirm students' many identities and align with our school district's commitment to anti-racism, inclusion, and belonging. My children attend Valley Verde Elementary. On the front of our school are two quotes, one penned by Theodore Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss, and one penned by Walt Disney, both white men, both with incredibly problematic legacies of racism. Seuss regularly created characters that exhibited behaviors and appearances aligned with harmful and stereotypical tropes. Many have exaggerated features aligned with the theme of anti-Blackness and are often presented in subservient or dehumanized roles, especially in their relation to white characters. Can I keep going? Okay. In several academic papers, Walt Disney has been identified as the most well-known purveyor of offensive and racist imagery. His films reinforced harmful and dehumanizing stereotypes of the Asian American Pacific Islander community, Indigenous peoples, and Black Americans, among others. The National Education Association has distanced itself away from Dr. Seuss, totally rebranding Read Across America Week to a focus of diverse books and inclusion. The Walt Disney Company now has a disclaimer added to several Walt Disney created films that warns viewers of antiquated and offensive content. A lot has happened over the course of this year that brings a new level of urgency to cultivating learning spaces that are welcoming, affirming, and safe for all students and families. The fact that Dr. Seuss and Walt Disney created so many racist and dehumanizing images of the very groups who have suffered recent violence is reason enough to remove their quotes and names from the front of our school. The Anti-Defamation League's Safe and Inclusive Schools for All report presents research findings that illustrate the connection between inclusive school messaging, imagery, and mascots to academic outcomes, instances of school violence, and overall emotional well-being. I urge the board to vote yes on this resolution, and I look forward to witnessing the critical and necessary changes on our campuses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Natalie Ivankovich and then Natalie Flores.
Thank you, President Cound, MDUSD trustees, Dr. Clark. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of agenda item 10.3, resolution 2021-80, inclusive school messaging, names and imagery. I am the parent of a rising fifth grader at Valley Verde Elementary School. Since my son entered the district, I have been involved with several district committees, CAC, PAC, and now ABAR, to name a few. Through this participation in these committees, I've learned so much about the offerings and opportunities provided by the district to our school sites. My goal as a parent has always been to be a liaison between the district and our school site to educate fellow parents that our school is part of a whole system and a greater community. That while our school site has some autonomy, we are ultimately guided by district goals and priorities. I was very pleased last year when the school board prioritized equity and humanity as guiding principles for MDUSD. The proposed resolution before the board tonight is just another extension of this important work because it is recognizing that the physical environment, literally the name, what is on the walls of our schools, and the culture of a school can affect students and their families' sense of belonging and inclusion in a school community. We all know our schools are old. Their names, their mascots, murals, and traditions reflect values of a community at the time that they were conceived. There should be a board and district endorsed process for district administrators and individual school communities to audit and evaluate their campuses to determine whether they align with current district and school site goals. The quote removal project that Meg and I are spearheading at Valley Verde Elementary is a direct response to Valley Verde's 4th school site goal of our SIPSA to include accountability for every learner having full access to a quality education in an environment characterized by acceptance, valuing, respect, support, safety, and security. To us and many members of our school community, Dr. Seuss and Disney are not models of inclusivity, and therefore their quotes should not adorn the front of our school. Yet even with this SIPSA guidance, it would be so much more affirming to know that our site project was what I had mentioned before, part of a whole program or agenda by the district to audit school campuses to make sure every school environment promotes the board and district promoted values of inclusivity, equity, and belonging. That ensures uniformity of school site projects throughout the district and gives community members who pursue these kind of projects some guidance, framework, credibility, and support. Thank you for listening to my comments, and please vote to approve Resolution 2021-80 as written tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Flores and then Jacker Morgan. Walker Morgan.
Hi, my name is Natalie Flores. I'm an upcoming senior at Ignatia Valley High. I'm here to talk about our mascot and why we should be having it. Many of you may think that it is honoring Native people. It's not. It is highly offensive and in a way dehumanizes them. And I'm also here to talk about some of the psychological effects that this has. And I'm also very happy that you guys are now talking about mental health in our district. I just think it's very important as someone who also struggles with mental health. So having this mascot, which is a Native person, it essentially leads to people, including not just limited to Native students, but also Native students especially, to feel unwelcome and uncomfortable at our school, which is probably the last thing we want because school is somewhere where we're supposed to feel safe. And if we don't feel safe, then what's the point of going? So this can also lead to a lot of self-esteem issues, eating disorders, looking at yourself in different ways, which can also be linked to depression and anxiety, leading back to me saying how they don't feel welcome at school. And yeah, that's all I kind of wanted to talk about. Thank you for listening. And I hope you guys consider what I just said when making your vote. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So Walker Morgan and then Rosie Reed.
I want to thank the board for hearing this, giving it the time and the attention. First off, this is in regards to the changing the mascot at YVHS specifically. It's been something that our students during a year where they were struggling with the pandemic, the changes and lack of structure and loss of the even socialization and everything else that they hold dear, especially at this time in development, undertook doggedly, determination not waning at all, launching social media campaigns, Zoom calls, getting other activists involved. And it's important to them. And it's uncomfortable for a lot of us, which is good. It's going to piss some people off, which is also good. Because when we're comfortable, we don't change. And to pretend that it's even a measure of debate, whether or not it's appropriate to have the imagery of the indigenous people or the native people as a warrior, as your mascot. The same imagery, the same notions that we as a country use to justify and rationalize the obliteration of an entire people, taking their children from them, cutting their hair, forbidding them to practice the religions that are associated with the feathers and the spears that we want to use in our sports teams, forbidding them to speak the languages that many of the towns are named after, and then pretending that it's honorable to use that as a name for our sports team. And if we want to honor them, we'll find something that doesn't make us pretend to be obtuse, doesn't show us as still callous to what has happened. If we want to honor them, we'll teach the real history of the people who have been oppressed, the people whose backs this country has been built upon. We want to honor them. We would have called them, the planters, the negotiators, the governors. We would honor the governments and cities and towns that they had developed well before any white settlers ever showed up. We can't ignore what has happened, and we can't pretend that this is the right way to honor them. The warrior imagery, the indigenous people, the native mascots that are associated with it. We need to listen to the students who are leading this, and we need to get rid of it. We need to not pretend that it's honorable. We wouldn't do this with any other group of people in any other ethnicity. We wouldn't seek to honor a small diminutive Amazonian tribe and call our team the Pygmies. We wouldn't do this anywhere else in any other way. It's not acceptable here, and it's time to be uncomfortable, and it's time to change. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Rosie Reed and then Kaya Morgan.
Good evening. My name is Rosie Reed, and I teach English at Ignacio Valley High School. I am in full support of this resolution, and I applaud the board and Superintendent Clark for their courage in addressing these very visible manifestations of racism in our schools, a move that is both necessary and long overdue. I want to share the words of some current YVHS students who could not be here tonight. Here is what they had to say about our school's warrior mascot. Brianna said, "It honestly makes me so sad that there are schools oozing with racism when school is supposed to be a nice, clean space for students. I love Ignacio Valley, but I don't agree with having my school's logo and nickname being racist and stereotypical. I hope this can change soon." Sarah said simply, "With this motto, we're treating Native Americans as animals because that's how our ancestors saw them." Finally, Muhammad said, "Our logo has a spear and we're known as the Warriors. We need to change this because it's offensive. We have the power to get together and make changes." These are our kids. These are their words. Tonight, you have heard from one YVHS student directly, and you're about to hear from another. These students have worked tirelessly to make positive change in our society. And I'm happy to share that this Saturday, they will be receiving an award from the Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center for their student activism and commitment to social justice. In one of the many meetings these students led this year to educate the community on the harm of our school's mascot, logo, and name, a woman asked the students how they got so interested in this topic, what made them want to act, and to act now in the middle of a pandemic. One of the students responded, "We've always cared about these issues. We've always wanted to work to get rid of racism and sexism and homophobia. This was just the first year it felt like grownups were actually willing to listen and actually willing to do something about it." Their comment is both heartbreaking and hopeful. Let's let these kids and every future generation of MDUSD students know that the grownups in the room are finally ready to listen and take action. Thank you.
Kaya Morgan and then Elsie Mills.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kaya Morgan, and I am a student at Ignacio Valley High School. I'm here today because I love being a YVHS student, and I want to be able to express my pride without infringing on another culture's identity. Our current mascot, the Warriors, accompanied by the logo of a spear and feather, is appropriative of Native American identities. I remember a couple years ago, The football team would run onto the field through an inflatable headdress during games, and the removal of the warrior head, which is a depiction of a Native man wearing traditional garb, from our scoreboard was as recent as last month. When considering the history of Ignacio Valley High and Native culture, it is not enough to water things down to be more socially acceptable. There needs to be substantial change. I understand there is some discussion on whether or not the word warriors would be acceptable to keep by itself. Some have said that the word by itself is a gray area and it's not clear whether it's offensive or not. To that, I respond, there is no space for gray areas on issues like racism in a progressing society. The mascot and logo change should be something unquestionably inoffensive. If we get to change it in any capacity, it needs to be completely ethical. I hope you will support our school and our student-led efforts to be more considerate of all cultures and ethnicities. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker is Elsie Mills.
Hi, my name is Elsie Mills. I live in Concord, the land of the Ohlone Miwok people. My pronouns are she and her, and I identify as white. I'm here to speak as a resident and as a member of SURGE, showing up for racial justice in Contra Costa. I support the resolution, inclusive school messaging, names, and imagery. I want to commend the students, staff, and community members who work so hard to help us see how using Native American imagery as mascots is harmful to us all. The Ignacio Valley High School student presentation provided to SURGE members and this board was profound, not only by the information presented by the students, but also for their passion and commitment to make their school and our community a better place. I live in the Ignacio Valley High School District and was appalled to learn that the mascot depicts a spear with a feather and the name Warriors. The mascot is racist and offensive. The depiction is detrimental to Native American students and staff. For non-Native persons, they are associated with negative stereotypes of Native Americans. These mascots undermine school spirit and cohesion using negative stereotypes typing of Native Americans. First, the name warrior and the depiction of a spear are associated with the stereotype of Native Americans being brave but aggressive male fighters. Second, they are associated with Native Americans from the past, and this aligns with the stereotype of Native Americans as primitive and pre-modern, rather than as contemporary people who negotiate the challenges of modern life, just like other people. Third, they employ a homogeneous Hollywood image of Native Americans, which obscures differences between Native tribes, nations, and individuals within these nations. Although Native American mascots are believed by many to convey positive attributes of Native Americans, it's not surprising that these mascots generate negative effects because they convey an extremely limited and misleading picture of a very diverse category of people. I greatly appreciate that the administrative staff and board has quickly moved to present this resolution with replacement of inappropriate mascots and images within 1 year. I'm also grateful that the resolution encourages all schools to utilize proven, high-quality tools to create welcoming environments for all. Certainly our children and the citizens you represent deserve to learn and work in an environment that promotes equality, respect, and understanding. As Maya Angelou has said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so that concludes public comment on item 10.3. Board members, do I hear a motion?
Well, I gotta introduce the
Oh,
resolution.
yes. Thank you.
That's all right. All right. So board, before you, we have a resolution. Clearly, you know, as we become more, you know, more educated and as we are more open to discussing things that have impacts on our student body and as a society at large, I think it is appropriate for us to to really set the example within the district. And so this resolution here is one that, can work as an anchor along with our equity policy, board policy. And so, I am going to take a moment and kind of read through this just so that maybe some of the public who hasn't had a chance, that they know exactly what the resolution says. So please bear with me. So this is resolution 20/21-80, inclusive school messaging, names, and imagery. So whereas all children and youth should be able to attend school in a welcoming, safe, and inclusive environment free from discrimination. And whereas in December 2019, Mount Diablo Unified School District became eligible for California Collaborative for Educational Excellence Assistance when it failed to meet California Accountability Dashboard Priority Outcomes for school climate, among other criteria. And whereas the CCEE Systemic Instructional Review identified, in quotes, there is a strong need to set expectations and provide sustained training on implementing culturally relevant and responsive curricular and instructional resources, as well as implementing targeted strategies to support students from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups in particular. And recommended action 1E, which set the expectation that work to achieve equity and inclusion will be shared by all district and school leaders and all teachers. So whereas equity policy 0415 states, in quotes, in order to eradicate instructional bias of any kind, including implicit or unintentional biases and prejudices that affect student achievement, and to eliminate disparities in educational outcomes for students from historically underserved and underrepresented populations, the district shall proactively identify class, linguistic, and cultural biases, as well as practices, policies, and institutional barriers that negatively influence student learning, perpetuate achievement gaps, and impede equal access to opportunities for all. And so whereas I'm skipping a little bit, whereas the California Racial Mascots Act states the use of racially derogatory or discriminatory school or athletic team names, mascots, or nicknames in California public schools is antithetical to the California school mission of providing an equal education to all. And it goes on to quote, whereas the American Psychological Association provides evidence, and whereas Education Code 201 provides evidence, whereas Board Policy 5145, non-discrimination and harassment and transgender policy provides evidence. So let me finish out here. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board sees an urgent need to establish a welcoming and safe environment for all students in our schools, community, and if necessary, schools shall choose a non-human mascot name replacement within 1 year, and the district budget shall bear the cost of the transition rather than the school site budget. Be it further resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Board encourages all schools to utilize proven, high-quality tools to create welcoming environments, such as registering for an Anti-Defamation League No Place for Hate School, teaching the 4 domains of social justice standards to all students, identity, diversity, justice, and action. And number 3, teaching lessons from the approved California Ethnic Studies model curriculum. And therefore, be it resolved that the resolution be distributed to every school in the district. I now place this item in the hands of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. And thank you for reading through the details of the resolution, because I think it is very important for people to understand all of the pieces of this. So with that, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution 20/21-80, inclusive school messaging, names and imagery.
I'll
I second.
second.
All right, thank you. Motion by trustee McFerrin, and I'll give the second to trustee Alas since it's her last meeting with us. All right. So any further discussion or questions by the board before we take this to a vote? Trustee Nzeri.
So if you all know who Michael B. Jordan is, he was Killmonger and who else is he? Creed. So I saw a headline today, literally this afternoon around 2:00, that said that he would change the name of a new brand he's launching, as Caribbean people expressed to him over the past week or so that the brand name was offensive. The article said he spent the last few days listening, learning, and engaging, and that he's now in the process of renaming the brand. I want to thank the brave students, teachers, and staff at Concord High School and YB High School this year for pushing us to do what's right. I know there are angry, sad, hurt teachers and alumni who find the idea of their beloved mascot changing unbearable. It saddens me that those students and community members have patiently explained why, in this case, the warrior name and imagery is racist and offensive. Many have attacked our students and their adult allies and basically said, I don't care, but I do. And this is a really good day to stop being racist. This resolution will have my yes vote.
Thank you, trustee Nzeri. Any other? Trustee Alas.
Thank you. I would like to first and foremost thank the students at YBHS for really leading this effort. I was able to attend a couple of your meetings and I was able to see the very cohesive presentations that you curated and were able to present to many different stakeholders and groups of people. And it is because of your efforts that this resolution is now here right now and that we are about to pass it. This resolution shows site administrators and communities that we support changing and improving our learning environments by ridding ourselves of antiquated quotes and racist imagery that do not and cannot represent an entire school. The YB mascot, as Natalie said, is a racist and insulting piece of imagery that is not conducive to a just and anti-racist education within our schools. And I particularly appreciate the inclusion within our resolution on the emphasis on learning about ethnic studies and critical race theory based on the Department of Education's model curriculum and models from Teaching for Justice. Learning about race cannot exist in a silo, but must be a part of every classroom and every learning space. Thank you again, YB leaders and everyone who spoke tonight. You have made tangible change. I'm excited to vote yes.
Thank you, trustee Ellis. All right. Okay. I'll point out also that there is a message on public record on the emails from Samantha Brown, who's the education director of ADL for our region. So she has offered the help of ADL No Place for Hate programs to any of our students and staff as well. Okay. All right. With that, let's take it to a vote. Let's start with trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
Trustee Nzeri.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you so much. And I think, as was said before, this was really moved forward by a movement of students from throughout the district. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. All right, so that moves us on to public employee appointments. Item 11.0. So 11.1. Review and potential approval of DMA classified management appointment, Director of Facilities and Bonds. Dr. Clark?
Yes, and one of the very special things that we get to do in this profession is to welcome individuals into our organization and to bring them in front of the board and share a little bit about them and then put their acceptance in the hand of the board in a public session. So we have 7 candidates that we're bringing forward tonight. All of the candidates have gone through the application process, have gone through the interview process, have done reference checks on them, and they are all highly qualified individuals that we're bringing forward tonight. So we're going to have Dr. Scudero start off this first one, and Dr. Scudero will lead us through this process. Dr. Scudero.
Thank you. It's Mount Diablo Unified School District's pleasure to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Erickson Moraes as the new Director of Facilities and Bonds. Erickson was the Facilities Operations Director for a nonprofit company in San Francisco that consisted of 7 properties, 3 SIP sites, 2 apartment buildings, 1 supportive housing facility, and a medical respite building. Erickson earned his bachelor's degree in administration with a minor in management and leadership from CSU Monterey Bay. Turn this over to the board.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve DMA Classified Management Appointment Director of Facilities and Bonds, Mr. Eric Moraes. Thank you. I want to pronounce it correctly. So
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Nzewi, second by trustee Mason. All right, we'll put it to a vote. Trustee Alas,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you so much, and we'll open the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just would like to thank each of you for the opportunity to work with the Mount Diablo Unified School District. I consider this opportunity as the pinnacle or capstone of my facilities career, not because the responsibilities are more than what I've done before, but because I get to make a difference for the future, for our future, which is our children. I intend to modernize and ensure that each building in this district is safe from a building and security standpoint. I was thrilled to find out that each building had already done a facilities needs assessment, which is half the battle in facilities. With that said, I thank you again, and I look forward to reporting in the coming months my progress in the aforementioned projects. Excuse my sweat, I have hyperhidrosis. So, but thank you again. Yeah, I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you and welcome. All right. Dr. Scudero, would you like to introduce the next appointments?
Yes, this Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Aya Rubio as the new principal at Holbrook Language Academy. Aya has worked in 4 California dual language public schools, working many years with Spanish bilingual parents and community members with a focus on equity to allow students to be inspired, develop a love of learning, and meet their maximum potential. Aya has a bachelor's degree in communication and behavioral science, and she has also studied the humanities in graduate school. In her free time, Aya enjoys cooking, traveling, and creating art with her 8-year-old daughter. Turn this over to the board.
Thank you. It looks like we have comment cards on item 11.2. So we'll go through those next. So Aaron Timms and then Andrea DeBoer.
Thank you. I'm here today as an active parent and a dedicated partner of Holbrook Language Academy. I will continue to be both no matter what the conclusion is tonight, and I will do my best to support any principal that is appointed. Nonetheless, I am disheartened by the lack of impact that our input as parents appear to have on the process of selecting a new principal. Thus, I would like to take a moment to have my thoughts be known to the board and to other members of the district, since the day in and day out of Holbrook is my world, and it's not yours, and you should know what the impact is on this. We all know that two-way dual immersion means that students spend half their classroom time in one language, and then midday they switch to another language. In the lower grades, they learn all subjects in the other language, including math, science, history. This approach greatly expands the students' vocabulary in both languages, and it helps them apply age-appropriate concepts independent of language. That is language immersion. Outside of the classroom, Holbrook conducts morning announcements, school assemblies, lunchtime games, recess activities, and all school communications, written and oral, in both languages. Learners of both languages see and hear things each and every day in both languages side by side. That is language immersion. The culture of Holbrook is language immersion. The culture of Holbrook is important to me, it's important to my child, and it's important to the students of Holbrook. And I stand here today to try to make it important to you, the directors who are overseeing Holbrook. The principal of Holbrook has emulated this culture. She has been a role model and the champion leader of this movement to incorporate the Spanish-English language immersion into every fiber of Holbrook. Because of her, it's become the cornerstone of language learning for all of our students. To continue this trajectory and to grow this concept with deeper and wider growth as the school expands, I firmly believe that a Spanish-speaking principal is the most logical, the most appropriate, and the most likely to succeed. Holbrook is a unique school with a unique culture and a unique opportunity to yet become that shining star school that we've been striving for. It is not unreasonable to ask that the leader of this school, that is unlike any other Mount Diablo school, has special requirements. And it stands to reason that the appointment of someone who can foster this environment, be able to speak the language firsthand, conduct public announcements in both languages without translation, can assess teachers' lessons and plans without translation. Someone who can address the students in the language they're learning in at that moment, and someone who can talk to our families personally and directly. I'm standing here today to implore the board to help us keep the culture of language immersion front and center at Holbrook, to take action to show that you believe the culture of Holbrook is important, and to consider using your authority to represent the community of Holbrook.
Thank you very much. All right. Next, we have Andrea DeBoer and then Jason Simone. Oh, okay. So Jason Simone and then Alexis Rogers.
Hello, my name is Jason Simone, and my third grade daughter, Eliana, is a student at Holbrook Language Academy in Concord. My wife and I also have another young daughter named Amalia, who will attend the same school as her big sister in a few years. It is no exaggeration to say that we moved hundreds of miles to send our children to Holbrook. Our family is very passionate about Spanish and dual language immersion. Unfortunately, I was very troubled to hear that the district plans to approve the hiring of a new principal of Holbrook Language Academy who does not speak Spanish. I am disappointed that the district is forgetting what language immersion is and its commitment to the goals of this program. I can't imagine the thought process that considered language proficiency as an optional hiring qualification. Is your staff thinking that many district schools have English language learners? Are they thinking that this is just about wanting diverse representation? Are they thinking that an administrator can lead teachers and students regardless of being multilingual? This makes no sense. Holbrook doesn't just happen to have a lot of Spanish-speaking families. Holbrook was designed to have a lot of Spanish-speaking families. Some speak little to no English at home. The mission of this program that the district was once adamant about implementing faithfully has always been to give zero preference to English as a primary language for this school. The magic formula that our parents are so familiar with is that exactly 1/3 of students should be English speakers, exactly 1/3 should be Spanish speakers, and exactly 1/3 should be bilingual. Dual language immersion at MDUSD is a high demand program that has been very difficult to get into. We respected the district's commitment to this program by ensuring that the students reflect the educational environment that is needed for it to succeed. My family knows this well after a very difficult lottery and appeal process which rigorously tested the Spanish proficiency of our 4-year-old. So it is shocking to me that the district could not put any of the same rigorous effort into locating someone with Spanish proficiency for our school's top administrator position. I am very grateful that the board has chosen to support Holbrook and its mission in the past by listening to parents and approving the development of a K-8 immersion program. As our children mature and prepare for high school, we will tell them about all the wonderful benefits and all the new worlds and new job opportunities that will open up to them in the future. But imagine how incredibly disappointing it will be if the district's actions show our children how little they truly value language proficiency by placing zero emphasis on hiring a Spanish-speaking principal. It is not acceptable for the district to approve this plan. Every Holbrook parent which I know or have talked to about this situation feels the same way. When the district asked parents and staff what qualities we needed in a principal, this was always the top concern. Please do the right thing. Reject this hiring proposal and commit to finding a candidate that will represent all of our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis Rogers and then Adriel Ewell.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, well, it seems like a decision has already been made tonight, and I want to preface my statement by saying that I obviously will support and welcome any new principal we get because I care about the success of Holbrook, which is why I'm here. My family has actually lived across the street from Holbrook since 1987. I grew up wishing and waiting to go to school, and then it was finally my turn. It's a wonderful part of my childhood. I'm still friends with many of the people who I went to school with there. And it deeply saddened me when they decided to close the school because my niece was in school at the time, but thankfully it was right in her 5th grade year, so she was on her way out anyway. Well, fast forward a few years, my daughter is ready to go to kindergarten, and I hadn't even considered any other elementary school in my head. I just pictured her always at Holbrook, even though I knew it was closed. It was just, that was the image, and then lo and behold, the year she's ready to go to kindergarten, Holbrook's ready to open up again as a dual emergence. Couldn't get any better than that. Really excited about that and really have been involved in the school since its reopening. We have been beyond blessed to have Principal Marshall fearlessly leading our school, and the fact that she is bilingual is not what made it so great, but that skill has made sure every meeting where we needed someone who spoke Spanish to translate, we had one. It made all families feel welcomed, and it made me feel confident that this dual immersion program was going to be successful. I am here taking time out of my evening because it is important for you to hear from those who are directly impacted by your decisions. If the proposed Holbrook principal candidate is not bilingual, I'm asking you to please reject this decision, this district recommendation, and find someone who can speak English and Spanish fluently. Please carefully consider this request. I don't think it is too much for us to have a bilingual principal for our dual immersion school. It should have been a prerequisite from the beginning, and I think it really sends a message to our students about how we value Spanish and English proficiency. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Adriel Ewell.
Hello, you got my name right. Thank you. Doesn't happen that often. So like Alexis said, I'll just echo, we're very emotional, partly because we're losing our principal. And some of us feel like we're not being heard. We have suffered a year of a pandemic, of not being heard. And here we are standing in front of you, not being heard. Okay, so I just want you to know that this is emotional for all of us because these are our kids, this is where our kids go to school. We signed up for this program. We're there day in and day out. We give our blood, sweat, and tears. And to be told, this is who you get. We didn't listen to anything that you said is really disheartening. My son is in 3rd grade, or he'll be going into 3rd grade, I should say. And it's been very cool to watch him learn Spanish as a young student. I remember my very first day, we didn't even know we were going to Holbrook. It wasn't even technically open for us because we were TK. I showed up and my little one was, crying on the 2nd, 3rd. He ended up crying the entire year. And here comes this woman in her pink heels to make sure that Hunter felt good about being at school. And it was Margaret Marshall. And she could speak to him in Spanish. She could help him. She could help all of our parents that speak only Spanish. And coming from Wren Avenue, which is where my older son started school, I just remember so vividly that there was one person on campus that was bilingual and could help all of our parents. One person. If one of our parents wanted to go speak to the principal in Spanish, they had to take that person with them. If it was confidential, God forbid, she's got somebody translating this to the principal. So what really struck me at Holbrook is I walked in and the principal could speak directly to all of our student population, no translation. Every parent felt equal. They had equal access to the principal, which was amazing. And I had not even thought of that until we started getting into this school and really experiencing what it meant to be side by side. Parents that didn't speak English, I don't speak Spanish, yet neither of us had any advantage over the other because our principal could speak to us both equally. We were both important. And I just think that's we can't forget that. That's why we exist. So I just implore you to please, like they said, we will support whoever we get. But I think it's important for someone to stand up and be brave. This is what we want. This is the parents. We speak for the parents of Holbrook tonight. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time and effort as our board.
Thank you very much. Okay, so moving forward, was there any other information that you wanted to provide here, Dr. Clark?
I just want to state that as we post our positions and as we vet candidates and whatnot, we are always looking for the best possible fit in a particular school. And, you know, again, the parents are saying tonight that they weren't heard. They were absolutely heard. I mean, that was one of the criteria that we used, but oftentimes you can't find someone that meets every single criteria. And so again, they were heard. You know, we did our best in trying to find a well-qualified, highly qualified candidate, you know, who had those skills. And we are very excited with who we're bringing forward here tonight. As you hear the bio, there's an extensive history in dual language schools. And again, you know, we listen to everyone. This person did come highly recommended by staff. And so it's not as if, you know, we didn't take consideration of what was presented to us. And so, you know, we want to support all of our students and all of our schools, and we do the best possible job in doing that. And so we are very excited to introduce this, the next principal of Holbrook.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark. So Dr. Scudero, you did the introduction already, right? Okay, so board, do I hear a motion on this item?
Madam President, I move that the board approve Aya Rubio as principal at Holbrook Elementary School.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Trustee Mayo, second by Trustee Mason. Any further discussion?
Is it? I don't know.
Trustee Alice.
I don't know if it'd be appropriate to have her introduce herself first and have her speak.
That would not be appropriate.
That would not.
Okay, let's take it to a vote. Oh, Trustee Nzewi.
I just wanted to offer to the parents who have written and who have spoken that I think everyone here hears you. I can't speak for my trustees because we don't get to talk, but I think I am certain that we hear you. And I know how it feels not to feel like you've been heard. I feel like I understand the importance of, in a dual language immersion, as you've all emphasized, that the leadership be able to communicate like to the last speaker, that no one in the room has an advantage over another. And I think these are fair concerns, and that you should demand from the district very fair and very clear plan of how you're able to maintain that equity, let's say, that language equity in the community when the leader isn't able to directly communicate with monolingual Spanish-speaking parents and the monolingual Spanish-speaking students who will enter or who continue next year. And so I encourage you to continue that and to work in partnership with the new principal and with whoever else would need to be involved. Because that was when the concern was brought to us. Well, I guess it was immediately when the agenda came out, and I'm like, I don't even know who we're talking about. But that was what I thought of as, well, how are we going to meet that gap? I understand that there are a lot of schools in our district who have probably majority Spanish-speaking families, and the school leadership isn't able to communicate directly. And then there are some schools that have that. I think that we've accepted that as normal. I think that there is a pipeline problem in building up, one, people who have those specific skills, people who want to stay in this business and bring their skills with them as they grow professionally. And we have a problem of making public education in general, especially in California, an attractive endeavor to stick to. So I think the problem is both systemic and systemic nationwide and systemic within our district. So I think we can have solutions for this year. And I do feel, as Dr. Scudero and Dr. Clark stated, I feel confident in this choice, and that she is the right choice for who we had to choose from today. And that I can only imagine if you're jumping into a new school after a pandemic, that you are like, you want to succeed and you want to do your best for the families and the children. And I hope, I truly believe that's true for the candidate and for everyone, every principal in our district. So there's my ramble. This is what you, as I said, this is what you get when I don't write down my words, but you get what you got, and I meant what I said, so.
Thank you, trustee Nzeri. Any other comments or questions?
I do. It is very evident from seeing the parents speak today that Holbrook has a very strong and dedicated community of parents and families who care about every student there and who care about everything that's going on within the school. So I am certain that whoever the principal is and whoever a very qualified candidate is, that you will continue to support that community and continue to uplift the dual immersion culture that has already been established by Margo Marshall. So thank you all so much for coming to speak. I assure you that we have listened to you, and I am also certain in our appointee. Yeah.
Thank you, trustee Alas. All right. Okay, let's take that to a vote. Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should always start with the student board member. Trustee Alas.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes, and I would just say you were heard, but I also sat here and thought about how difficult it would be to start the school year without a principal, or a substitute and then change. So we heard you, and we're going to hope for the best.
Trustee Nzeri.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Congratulations, Aya Rubio.
Would it be permissible to have Aya come up and say?
Yeah, we would like
Please
that.
come up and introduce yourself and your family. Anything that you would like to share with us.
Thank you, trustees and Dr. Clark for your confidence in this appointment. 20 years ago, I started my career in education just blocks away from where I was born in a neighborhood called Boyle Heights in East Los Angeles. And I taught at the very first gifted and high ability Spanish bilingual school. 15 years, this school opened 15 years after any other magnet school in LA Unified, which is a huge inequity because this was based on language. So this is where I began my equity journey. This is where I began my home. I still have very close ties to my families, to the students, to the teachers that I worked with. And I am so deeply honored to have this opportunity to work with dedicated, committed, passionate members of the Holbrook community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want to introduce your
And this is my 8-year-old daughter who is in a Spanish dual immersion language program herself.
Welcome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Okay, Dr. Scudero, item 11.3.
I'm gonna call Carolyn Hull up, if I could at this time while I read this. So Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Carolyn Hull as the new principal at Fair Oaks Elementary. Carolyn has served the Mount Diablo Unified School District for the last 13 years. She started a career teaching math for 5 years at Riverview Middle School, 2 years at Foothill Middle, and the last 3 years she has served as a vice principal of Riverview Middle School. Carolyn earned her bachelor's degree in liberal studies from California State University, Fresno, and her master's degree in teacher leadership from St. Mary's College. Outside of school, Carolyn enjoys spending time with her husband and 2 children and volunteering with community organizations such as Relay for Life. I turn this over to the board.
Thank you so much. Do I hear a motion?
I would like to move to approve Carolyn Hull somewhat regretfully to the Fair Oaks Elementary because she's leaving the Bay Point community where she has served us well. But I wish her well in this next endeavor.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Alas. Shall we take it to a vote?
I have something real quick.
Yes,
Mrs.
trustee
Holt, you were my 6th grade math teacher at Foothill. I don't know if you remember me, but you were.
Take total credit for her.
All right. Well, I'll give you the first vote, trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to continue serving Mount Diablo Unified School District. I am so excited to meet the community of Fair Oaks and to help them continue to build on the great program that they already have. And I look forward to becoming part of the Bulldog community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item 11.4.
Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Eric Wood as the new principal at Sun Terrace Elementary. Eric started his career as a special education assistant with MDUSD. He then moved on to become a special day class teacher with the district. Eric was then promoted to vice principal before becoming principal at Riverview Middle School. Eric earned his bachelor's degree in liberal studies with a minor in early childhood studies from Cal State East Bay. He earned his Master of Arts degree in special education from Brandman University and his Master of Arts in Educational Leadership and Administration from Brandman University. Eric has a wonderful and supportive wife, Lauren, and 2 great children. In his spare time, he enjoys building and fixing things around the house, going camping anytime he and his family have the chance. I turn this over to the board.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I will approve this. Sadly, the appointment of Eric Wood to be the principal of Sun Terrace Elementary School. But I know that wherever Eric goes, he will do his best to serve our students and they're be lucky to have him.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. Did anyone else have Eric Wood as a teacher? Okay. All right, we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Alas,
Yes.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome, Eric Wood.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. I want to thank you, school board. Thank you so much. I'm excited to have a new opportunity within our school district. And I'm extremely excited to rejoin the Sun Terrace community where I started teaching. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item 11.5.
And Raymond, come on. Well, Raymond's coming up. Let me just read about him. Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Raymond Chenaloy as the new Director of Assessment, Research, and Evaluation. Raymond was an early childhood education teacher at Sacramento City College Child Development Center before becoming a graduation student researcher in education at San Jose State University and UC Santa Barbara. He worked as a school district administrator at Pittsburgh Unified and currently works as a school district administrator with MDUSD. Raymond obtained his bachelor's degree in philosophy from UC Davis, his master's degree in education with an emphasis in child and adolescent development from San Jose State University, and his doctorate in education with an emphasis in educational leadership and organizations from UC Santa Barbara. Raymond lives in Walnut Creek. He is married and has 2 little boys. Turn this over to the board.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I would move that the board approved Raymond Chenaloy to be appointed as Director of Assessment, Research, and Evaluation.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Mayo, second by trustee Mason. Let's put it to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Anzeri.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome.
I'd like to thank you, the board, Dr. C, the committee, and community for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to applying my education and expertise in this position and really pushing us to that next level. So I am really eager to begin this, and I'm getting started already. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, 11.6.
I understand Teresa's not here this evening. Is that correct?
Yeah, she wasn't able to, she's on big, yeah, she's not here.
Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of Teresa Harrington as the new Public Information and Community Relations Officer. Teresa has worked as a news reporter since 2000, including education coverage at EdSource and Bay Area news groups. She began her career as a project manager for KQED TV, managing children and other educational programs and print outreach. Teresa has a bachelor's degree from San Francisco State University in broadcast communications with an emphasis in journalism. Teresa is the mother of 6 children, including 5 who are attending Mount Diablo Unified School Districts. She's sorry she's unable to attend the board meeting because she's on a previously planned trip, whitewater rafting, canyoneering, rock climbing, and hiking with her partner and some of their friends.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve Teresa Harrington as Director of Assessment and Research and no, wrong one. Sorry.
Information.
Public Information and Community Relations Officer.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee McFerrin. All right, we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, okay. Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Oh,
Yes.
Trustee Anzeri.
yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 4-0. How do I say? 4-0-1, one abstention. Thank you. With concurrence from our student board member. All right. Congratulations, Teresa. Hope you're having fun whitewater rafting right now. Okay, and our last appointment, 11.7.
I'll let James come up for this one. Mount Diablo Unified School District is pleased to bring for your review and approval the appointment of James Wogan as the new Assistant Director of School and Community Services. James has worked as the Manager of Student Services and most recently the Director of Wellness. James is returning to MDUSD where he previously worked as a social work specialist and administrator for school linked services. James earned his bachelor's degree in psychology from Guilford College and his MSW from Berkeley. Turn it over to the board.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I am not making a motion, but I have been committed since being put on the board to moving the district forward to expand and enhance and improve services for children. And I don't think the way to do that is to go back into the past. So I will not be supporting this.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I move that the board approve James Wogan as, I'm sorry, didn't advance my docket. Assistant Director, School and Community Services.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by trustee Mayo, second by trustee Nzewi. We'll put it to a vote. Trustee Ellis,
Yes.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin,
Yes.
trustee Mason, for the
No.
record. I also vote yes. Motion passes 4-1 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome, James Hogan.
Thank you. I would very much like to thank the board, Superintendent Clark, Dr. Wendy Aguirre, Linda Pete, and of course, the one and only Felicia Stuckey Smith. I joined Mount Diablo, or rejoined Mount Diablo Unified at a critical time. It's an exciting time, but very important time for expanded learning partnerships. I bring my full commitment to this work, and I would like to quote, if I may, Angela Davis, who said, rather than accepting things that we cannot change, we must change the things that we cannot accept. It's an honor and a privilege to serve students, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rogan. All right, that completes our public employee appointments. Congratulations to all. We look forward to seeing your great work in the coming year. All right, that moves us to 12.0, reports and information. 12.1, review the hybrid memorandum of understanding with Teamsters Local 856.
Yeah, and Dr. Scudero is going to present this item.
So we're just bringing for your review the fifth of the hybrid memorandums of understanding, this one with the Teamsters Local 856. Pleased to answer any questions if you have it.
Trustees, any questions on this item? Thank you for providing the information. We have all reviewed it.
I just want to thank everyone that was involved, the Teamsters and our staff who are reaching these agreements for us. We know that there was a lot of time spent on this and many great conversations were held. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Okay, item 12.2, review the refinancing of district general obligation bonds. Dr. Clark?
Yes, this item is presented before you. If you have any questions, I have Dr. Gonzalez here who could respond to them. Otherwise, it's in the hands of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. I know there was a robust discussion about this at the Budget Advisory Committee, so appreciate that. Are there any other questions from the board on this item?
I thought it comes back to the board in August. It was.
Correct. This is informational, so it's time for you to ask questions. if you-
Yeah, I was just clarifying what Dr. Park said.
Okay, so clarifying that this comes back to the board in
Right,
August?
I know the hands in the board to like ask questions
Yeah.
or whatnot, not necessarily to take action.
Exactly. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, that moves us on to item 12.3, review and potential approval of the Golden Bell Award nominations for the California School Boards Association.
Yes, I'm gonna have Dr. Gonzalez take this item because she's been spearheading these efforts. So Dr. Gonzalez.
The California School Boards Association annually holds a Golden Bell Award process that allows school districts to nominate up to 3 programs that really acknowledge and highlight outstanding work that they're doing. And it really is an opportunity to celebrate the staff that are behind the programs and the students who benefit from them. So there was an executive cabinet discussion a couple of weeks ago, and we looked at all the categories and we brainstormed some opportunities for some programs that would qualify. I then had a follow-up conversation with the directors and with many of our principals who were part of a specific meeting a couple of weeks ago. And, based on all of the parameters, tossed a bunch of ideas out, gave the information, and there were 3 programs that came forward and said, absolutely, we're interested in having assistance with applying for these. One of those was the Holbrook Language Academy for the 4 or 5 years that it's been in existence for its dual immersion program. The second one is Sunrise's Social Emotional Educational Collaborative, something that has not only saved the school district probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, but has best served students, not only in our district, but allowed partnerships with other districts. And then the Food and Nutrition Department, not only with their Get Real certification, but with all the work that they're doing to do in-house scratch cooking as much as possible. As a matter of fact, I've just been taking a look at some of the data they've been sharing, and that and our other programs are most impressive. So these applications are due this Friday. 2 of them are ready to go. We are editing the third one now, and as soon as the board takes action, pending that action, we would be submitting those applications within the next 24 hours, and we will be sending copies of all of those applications to the board afterward.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I would move we approve the application for the 2021 CSBA Golden Bell Awards for Holbrook Language Academy Dual Immersion Program, Sunrise Social Emotional Educational Collaborative, and the Get Real with Food and Nutrition Services, the Mount Airy Unified School District Food and Nutrition Services Department.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Nzewi. Any other comments or questions? We'll move forward with a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez, and all the staff for the time and effort that it takes to put these together and to submit them. I don't think that we've been awarded one of those for quite some time, so it's great to get in the race. All right, okay. All right, so now we are on to item 12.4, review the increase and decrease of classified personnel FTE for the 2020-2021 school year. And we have a comment card, 2 comment cards, Michael Langley, and then we'll have Mr. Willie Mims. Mr. Langley.
Madam President, board members, superintendent, staff. Earlier, a question was raised concerning whether we could find qualified prospective employees with a 1-year contract, a temporary job. I'm addressing specifically on 12.4, the 3 positions for special assistant, special education assistants, classroom. If 1 or more vacancies occur for special ed assistant at the end of 2021-22 school year, is it the intention of the school district to consider retaining those temporary hires for those vacancies? It may be a way of encouraging the most qualified. However, I noticed later on the agenda, there is in 17.7 an MOU that may impact my question. So if that does complicate your answer, I can wait until after that to find out if the intention is to, if qualified and successful, these temporary hires will be offered regular jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langley. Dr. Clark, or did you want to have a staff response at this time?
We'll wait for the next comment, and then maybe in the staff presentation, they'll address
right.
the comments.
Fantastic. Mr. Billy Mims.
Yes, to the board, some of the problem that I have is that when I don't hear a staff report, then I don't know what staff is going to say. So I think that staff should give the reports first before they call upon the people to speak. Because it put us at a severe disadvantage. Because there was an item on the agenda earlier in which the superintendent, he read the staff report. That's not fair to the people who came up here to talk on an item that they hadn't heard from staff on. But anyway, I just had, a couple of questions on these positions here. So you eliminate a position, then you create another position. So are these the same people that whose jobs have been eliminated and then they're put into the other positions? Or we're talking about the same people here? Or what? Or are they new people? Or are these layoffs? And then someone else has been hired into their positions? And
We'll address that.
okay.
So yeah, Dr. Clark is keeping track of your questions to address in the
Well,
staff report.
Well,
Go ahead.
that's my main question on almost all of these positions, in terms of but this is inconsistent in terms of what you guys been doing, eliminating and creating. And so, but nobody's asked the questions, are these the same people whose jobs have been eliminated? Or are they being replaced? I mean, are they being given a higher position, a higher salary with a new position? So thank you for that answer. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mims. All right, staff report and response.
Good. So I'm going to have Dr. Rubio, respond to the questions, but also give his report. But I know that, in all transparency, he's going to take a minute or so to explain these reports and whether or not like we're required to do them and why we do them. And I think someone watching it and someone like Mr. Mims, who hasn't been here in some time to see this, it may need some explaining so the public understands what this is. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rubio.
Sure.
Kind of talk about it.
So thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. This is the basically a business transaction report, as you may know, that shows the positions changing, or oftentimes it is the funding source that is changing. And so from year to year, as the state gives us different money, and this will, I think, address one of the other questions, we have to change those funding sources with the fiscal department. So really, most districts, I can't actually, I did look around a little bit. I can't find another district that does this. It is quite a few hours of work every 2 weeks for the staff. You do see, of course, the positions that are higher level and cost in terms of management. If we were bringing 10 positions, for example, of counselors that would come to you, typically districts don't bring these transactions. That said, because the money changes from year to year, we do oftentimes have, it is part of the change in the system. So you'll see a position eliminated and then simply recreated, and is often the same person. Now, sometimes, it's not always the same person. Sometimes, and there's a couple on here tonight, the school may say, you know what, we really need a bilingual instructional paraprofessional. And so a couple of these, it looks like the schools have said, you know what, instead, which is certainly part of their planning with parents, oftentimes in their plan, that let's make this a bilingual paraprofessional. So that may not be the same person if they don't have the qualifications. In terms of temporary funding, temporary positions, it is very common that you receive these, and they are one-year positions. And that is almost always due to the type of funding. Now, because the state of California has given us so many different new categories of money that is temporary and extremely temporary in nature, quite a bit of it ending next August, they have to be set up as temporary positions. Otherwise, it would, and the board will have more thoughts, conversations, and choices throughout next spring and next summer about whether or not the district can afford to retain the staffing level at that time. So I hope that answers some of or all the questions, and I do appreciate the questions. They're very good questions.
All right, thank you very much. Right, so this is much more of a fiscal document than a sort of employee document. It's more about the funding source than the person itself, is what I'm hearing.
That's correct. And you have, and a number of these positions you have formally taken action on and approved in the last board meeting. You're just seeing the transactions, which we probably actually, it is a question mark in my mind, like for next year, do we keep bringing the transactions? Because you approve the budget 3 times a year. If the salaries for the district suddenly are millions of dollars too high, then you'll be asking Dr. Clark and I what happened. So, but yes, these are just the transactions.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions, board members? All right. That takes us to item 12.5, review the increase and decrease of certificated personnel FTE for the 2021-22 and 22-23 school years.
Thank you very much. Similarly to the last item, these are, instead of the classified positions, the same business transactions that are occurring in our database and fiscal and HR systems regarding certificated employees.
Trustees, any questions on this item? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, it has been a level of transparency to have these reports in each agenda to date. So appreciate your work on that. All right, that moves us to 13.0, the super. There was a card. Mr. Langley, come to speak for item 12.5. Thank you.
My question is similar, but because certificated and classified are slightly different in HR, I wanted to address this separately. Secondly, I understand the concept of temporary. My original question was if vacancies appear for retirement or people who leave, we have to replace them. Are we thinking of using these temporaries, transitioning them to fill positions that may open up at the end of the school year? But let me deal with the certificated, and with that clarity, I think it'll help. We're looking in the certificated at school counselor positions. I understand that a lot of them are transitional because of what happened with COVID. We're looking at 5 secondary teacher positions. So my question specifically on certificated teaching positions. If one or more vacancy occur at the end of the contract, in other words, at the end of next school year, due to retirement or people leaving the district, and positions are opened up in our regular probationary situation, is it the intention of the district to offer a probationary position to some or all of those who are being hired on a 1-year temporary contract? If so, would the complete year of temporary that they've contracted with eventually be counted toward probationary and permanency in their toward their career? And I think I would like to know that. And again, we're looking at positions that might open up due to retirement and people just leaving the district and having vacancies that are funded normally. Would we look at these people who are special funded for a 1-year temporary position if they are considered good enough to continue? Are we going to give them some sort of priority? Thank you very much.
So I'm not going to respond to your question specifically, but what I'm going to ask you to do is if you will email that question to us, we will have staff provide you with a written response. Okay?
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and that moves us to 13.0, the superintendent's report. Dr. Clark.
Yeah, so I really don't have a specific report. What I have to talk about is just fall 2021, and that's really where we're aiming towards. And just a couple things. We have received some emails, not many, but some emails from a few different schools about concerns of teachers being transferred or having to move to other sites because of a drop in enrollment. We have shared with this board throughout this pandemic year that our numbers have been down close to 1,200 students that have, not necessarily officially left the district, but we're not showing up for distance learning or for the hybrid. And so therefore we did not adjust our FTE to account for all 1,200 of those students. However, we did adjust for some of them. So schools where parents let us know that they were leaving and that they were moving out of state or going to a different school or whatnot, they lost enrollment. And our staffing models are directly tied to enrollment. We have not gone back to the bargaining table and changed our class size caps. They are the same caps that have been there for the last few years. And we have staff who are checking our enrollment numbers daily to see whether or not a school can be reassigned an FTE, or if they continue to lose students, if an FTE is going to be transferred to another site. So none of these teachers that we may have received emails about are losing their jobs. They are just moving to a different site or a different grade level to meet the needs of that particular site. So I just really wanted to explain that. I also, when talking about next year, I also want to announce, because the guidance from the state is still changing, but we will be holding an informational session on June 30th. And that information will be posted on our website. And I believe that we will blast parents who requested. Parents who requested information will receive a direct email, but everyone else can get that information off of the website. But we will be having an informational session on independent study, on homeschool, and on our plans for an extension of independent study in the form of a virtual academy. And so we will be doing that on June 30th. That will be held on Zoom. And we also will post a link on our website for those who can't attend live to have an opportunity to see that. And then I just want to state with some of our new principal appointments tonight, as Trustee Mason pointed out, we've lost 2 longtime administrators at Riverview Middle School. That position is posted, and we will be recruiting for that position, and we will be holding interviews. We will be doing community engagement, and we are committed to filling that position and other positions throughout the district. This is what happens in education. Oftentimes you have individuals who promote up or move to a different setting. And, we definitely want to thank the 2 administrators who, are basically, moving on from Riverview, but we are committed to staffing that school with a highly qualified administrator. And then I also just want to, I want to wish the board well during our July hiatus. We will, our board meetings will be going dark, but I can rest assured that we will still be fully operational over at the Dent Center. And also during July, we are going to be closing down summer school. And so summer school has been extremely successful. We have had teachers thinking outside the box and providing new experiences for their students. For those of you who've had the opportunities to go out and visit, you got to witness that firsthand. But we have shown and proven that we can bring students back safely into our classrooms. And so we are really looking forward to doing that in the fall. But I do just want to make a public service announcement. If you are a kindergarten parent and you have not yet registered your kindergartner, I would encourage you to register him or her, because we are adjusting staff in response to those registrations. And so it is always our goal to keep staffs intact, but also in order to be good shepherds of taxpayer funds, we have to staff appropriately. And so we'll be working on that. And then also in closing, I just have and I know we embarrassed her and gushed about her at the last meeting, but I do have just a small certificate of appreciation. Certificate of appreciation for participation and dedication as the first student board member, Mount Diablo Unified School District 2020-2021, Michelle Ollis. And that is being presented to her by President Cound and myself. And we are so thankful for what you have brought to this position. We wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. And we hope that, with all the opportunities that you have in the future, that you'll just consider maybe coming back and not serving on the board, but maybe working to serve the students and families and communities of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. So with that, I want to formally recognize and thank Trustee Alas again. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not saying we're okay. Okay, I know what All righty, thank you, Dr. Clark. All right, trustees, are there any questions or responses to superintendent's report? No, okay. I just want to say I appreciate you answering the question about whether class sizes have changed, because there seems to be some misunderstanding about that in the community. So for people to understand that we do have to staff according to our estimated enrollments. And so if you are at a site where you're where it appears that enrollment is dropping and they're staffing accordingly, you know, get out there and encourage your fellow families to make sure to inform the office that you are coming back and you are enrolling this fall. And I would say also with the kindergarten registration, as well as the June 30th information session about alternative education options, that, you know, if those can be posted, you know, maybe on social media and things like that, especially with our new public information officer, that that would be another way to get the word out to families for kindergarten registration. They can share it out to others that may need to know that in the community. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Madam President, as we go over the consent agenda, might I add that we approve we address the items in the clumps that they're in. So maybe like 14.1 through 1438, and then we can do section B, section C. I know that, you know, I've had individual conversations with each of you about questions that you may have. We also, staff responded to inquiries that were out there. And so, but we want to fully recognize that there's a lot of items on here, but that you all have been well briefed on those items and whatnot. I just thought that might be a way to organize them in a little doable fashion.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so this moves us on to the consent agenda. So item 14.0, and these items are considered routine and they're approved, adopted, usually in a single motion with no separate discussion of the items, but any of these items may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any board member and acted upon separately. So first, let's hear board members if there are particular items you would like to remove, and then we can categorize them in groups if needed. All right.
So I have one item I'd like to remove.
Yes.
And that is 14.12.
Okay.
And we'll bring that back at a later date.
Okay, so we're striking that one from the agenda. Item 14.12 is removed. Okay. All right, board members, any other items you would like to pull? Looks like everyone got their questions very much answered. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
And again, just President, I just want to make sure that it's 14.1 through 1420, not the whole entire agenda. I'm asking you to approve it in sections.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why I was going to make a motion
Okay.
for,
Good.
I make a motion, we approve consent agenda items 14.1 through 14.20 with 14.12 being pulled.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Trustee Mason, second by Trustee Alas. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Okay, now I would make a motion, we approve under the special ed heading, items 14.21 to 14.38.
Second.
All right. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. We will take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now I would make a motion that we approve consent items under the heading of maintenance operation 14.39 to 14.41.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. Put it to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
I would move that we approve under consent items, category technology 14.42 through 14.47.
Second.
All right. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
And I would move that we approve under consent agenda under D, transportation 14.48 through 14.53.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee McFerrin. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that concludes the consent agenda. Thank you very much. All right, that moves us into our business items for the evening. Item 17.1, review and potential approval of the Mount Diablo Unified 2021-2022 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP. Dr. Clark.
Yeah, so we are very excited to bring this document forward. There's been a great deal of work on this. We've engaged with the public. We've worked with CCEE who helped get out and do a lot of those parent engagement sessions. We've engaged our staff, employees, and this is a plan. Again, it's a fluid plan. And so, but we are confident that that this is a doable plan. It's an extensive plan, and that by completing this plan, that we would be in line with the values of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Sachs, who I really cannot thank enough for the work that she and her team, and she won't take any credit for it. She's going to give it all to her team, but I know that there's been many hours and much collaboration on this document. So without any further ado, Ms. Sachs.
Well, I don't have a presentation prepared. I did the presentation at our last board meeting. So anybody in the public that would like to review that was on June 9th. But talking about a team effort, I do want to thank the community members and the individuals that did submit feedback. That information was very helpful in making some edits to the final document. Not a ton, but if you do look at the document that's posted, the edits were either struck through, underlined, added, so that will indicate what's been changed. You can also take a look at some of the feedback, which is on the LCAP webpage under parents and community. Unfortunately, it's not in alphabetical order. I am unsure why. So just scroll all the way down past where the L should be. It's there at the very bottom, and you'll be able to take a look at the feedback in English and in Spanish. We will have both final documents ready for the website as soon as the County Office of Education takes a look and gives us their nod of approval. They have reviewed the document or pieces of it several times, and we will also make sure that it's translated into Spanish so it's accessible to the community.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Sachs. Do we have a motion on this item?
I would make a motion that we approve the Mount Diablo Unified School District 21-22 Local Control Accountability Plan with the expectation and excitement that we will be reviewing it hopefully quarterly in the coming year to make sure we're on track to making the gains we want to make.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Alas. Any discussion? I'd just like to say thank you for all of your work on this huge project, including and really listening to all of the community feedback. And although I was not physically present for the last board meeting and public hearing, I did watch the video and was able to see your presentation as well. So much appreciated. All right, let's take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to item 17.2, public hearing for Senate Bill 858, excess of minimum reserve requirements. So we'll officially open the public hearing. And I don't see any comments on this public hearing. So I'm going to close public comment on the public hearing. Okay. All right. And that is the action, I believe, correct? Was there any presentation connected to this item?
No, there's not.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Item 17.3, review and potential approval of resolution 2021-78 Education Protection Account, EPA. And Dr. Clark.
Are there any questions on this item?
Trustees, any questions? There are not. And this is info action. So do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I move the board approve the resolution 20/21-78 Education Protection Account as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by trustee Mayo, second by trustee Mason. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Alas?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. All right, that moves us to 17.4, review and potential adoption of the 2021-22 Mount Diablo Unified School District budget. Dr. Clark.
And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Gonzalez.
And similar to the process that we followed for the local control accountability plan, which is also one of our other board items just a few items ago. This is here for your approval. It is predominantly the same as the last time we presented it, with the exception of the fact that we did adjust the legal costs because of some incurred legal costs as well as increases to insurance over the next school year.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Do I hear a motion?
I was just curious, do we have any updates yet from? No, okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Are you asking about the budget? So my intel.
Go ahead, inquiring minds.
No, it's not, because it's quiet, like it's been quiet this week. And so they must be getting close. So we know that the legislature has scheduled their votes for Monday. And so that would mean they'd expect to have an agreement by Friday. So maybe we'll know something this weekend and what it is. That's like third-hand knowledge, so. But it did appear in my text.
All right, thank you. So as was mentioned, the adjustments, once the state comes through and confirms what funding we will receive, then those adjustments are made as the year moves forward. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve the proposed budget?
I'll move to approve adoption of the 2021-22 Mount Diablo Unified School District budget.
I'll second.
All right, motion by trustee McFerrin, second by trustee Nzewi. We'll take that to a vote.
I have a
Trust-
question.
Oh, yes.
Since one of the categories increased by $15,000 for the restricted accounts, is it required that we amend and adopt the SELPA plan, section D? That's not on the agenda tonight, but I just wanted to make sure whether or not we had to close that loop.
We will follow up and let you know after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
Trustee Anzewi.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. Okay, so that moves us to 17.5. Review and potential approval of the LCAP Federal Addendum 2021. Dr. Clark.
I'm bringing Ms. Sachs back to address this item.
Trick me, Lisa. So the state of California can't get enough of having our school districts create more and more plans. I want to highlight the work of Dawn Edwards, Assistant Director, on this document. And really what it is anything that could not be included in the LCAP, the federal government wanted in a type of a partner document, which does go into a little bit more detail around those Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV programs to make sure that the federal government also feels as if we're paying them some very close attention. So that is what this document is.
Was that a speaker card on this item?
Yes.
Mr. Bims, come on up.
Yes, I was looking at page 9 of the addendum data requirement. They're asking questions. Our low-income students start at a higher rate than other students by ineffective teachers. So the answer is no. And there are no differences in the rate of low-income students being taught at higher rates than by other ineffective teachers. So that kind of question is, there's about 7 or 8 questions of the same nature. So if the low-income students or minority students, the next one deals with minority students, if they're not being taught by ineffective teachers, then what's the problem with the atrocious California assessment test scores that they have every year? I mean, especially the African American subgroup, which has the lowest test scores across this whole district year in and year out. And so I am not sure. So have you looked at this issue here? I mean, I see how quick you answer the question as to no, but there's something going on here. You look at your data. That's all you have to do. So I'm not sure that you are being truthful by saying no. Something, if you're saying no, then what's the other problem? And I did not really get a chance to decipher this whole thing, just like the LCAP plan. I was sitting on the sideline because I didn't get a chance to even look at it. But I saw some problems in it anyway. Targeted instructions not there. I mean, specifically, it's spoken in generalities, but I don't want to talk about something that's already gone. But here, the answers to the questions are minority students taught at higher rates than other students by out-of-field teachers. No, there are no differences in minority students being taught at higher rates than other students by out-of-field teachers. Well, what's the problem with the minority students then? I mean, if your answer is no, then what are you going to do about it? When you bring up your data from your latest California assessment test score, 1819, you'll see that specifically one subgroup, and that's the African American subgroup, has the lowest test scores, not just from 1819, but from back 17, 18, 16, 17. So something is going on here with this specific subgroup. And your LCAP plan is somewhat flawed and not targeting this specific subgroup. It is almost as though you are afraid to mention African-American students. But this is your problematic area. And if you're not willing to deal with it, then your problem will never be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mims.
Yeah. So
Would you
I'm
like to
going to have
respond?
Ms. Sachs respond to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so thank you for being here, Mr. Mims, because I do know that in the past several years, you've been very thoughtful with regards to your comments on all of these documents. These metrics mentioned on page 9 are actually more, are these teachers certificated or are they not? Are we filling our students' classrooms with teachers that only have intern types of credentials? But to the point of, do we need to do better by our African-American youth as well as homeless and students experiencing homelessness, emerging bilingual, as well as foster youth? The answer is absolutely yes. The local control accountability plan does not have the level of specificity, but it's a document that we're going to be working on along with the systematic instructional review report, where there are 72 actions specifically focused on our marginalized student groups in order to ensure we get to that specificity that is mentioned. It is something that we are going to have to work with CCEE on a quarterly fashion to have to report out to our community on our progress in that area. And we've already had many a meeting where we've had to zero in on certain activities. One that's very specific, that's actually ending tomorrow, has been our equity cohort trainings for 100% of our site administrators. 100% of our site administrators are 2 elementary and secondary directors. Dr. Clark himself, myself, as well as other staff members have sat alongside our elementary, middle, and high school principals and vice principals in order to really talk about disrupting racism in our school. And that's not something that has happened before. And it is something that's one of those actions that is embedded within the SIR that we're extremely excited about, and one that we know it's going to change things for kids. So to that specificity, I truly appreciate the feedback on the LCAP, but I would like everybody to take a look at the systematic instructional review report, especially the addendum, because it's quite long, of about 12 pages, which goes into that very targeted language around instructional practices and what we're doing for the future.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sachs, for that response. And also I want to commend Dr. Clark and the staff for really following through on the equity training for all administrators. That really is unprecedented in this district. We have held equity trainings for our principals, but it's been more of an optional sort of thing that not everybody went through. And so the fact that every single principal has gone through that now this summer, this past week, it is really a step in the right direction and is one of those key action steps. So much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the local control accountability plan, federal addendum 2021.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Nzewi, second by trustee Mason. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move that to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee Mason. Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. Okay, 17.6 is review and potential approval for the authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments and board authorizations in advance of the board meeting on August 11th, 2021.
I
Did
feel
you-
kind of awkward, like.
do you want to
introducing
explain
my own
what the-
items, But no, but as
For the
we're-
public to understand
yes.
what this is, though. Yes.
So as the board is taking a recess for the month of July, as I stated earlier, in preparation for 2021, we have to make several hires over the summer. And this authorization gives me the ability to offer contracts to employees. We'll still bring those employees to the board for final approval of this board, but I can at least get the ball rolling and get them started. And this especially is for our site administrators. When we need site administrators to start, we don't want anyone to wait until August 11th to start, because the first day of school is August 12th, as you know, I want to announce yet again, August 12th. So, and at the last meeting, you guys authorized me to go into contracts with facilities and work and things of that nature. And this one is just giving me the authorization to make personnel.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Clark. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments, create full-time equivalent, approve provisional internship permits, variable term waivers, and board authorization under Ed Code 44256H and Ed Code 442582 in advance of board meetings on August 11th, 2021.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzeri?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to 17.7, review and potential approval of district and CSEA AB 86 MOU for paraprofessionals, rehiring, hiring, increase in hours, and retention to maintain hires. Dr. Clark. Dr.
I gave
Rubio.
up on my-
Good evening, board members. Item 17.7 is for your review and potential approval. We spent a lot of very productive hours with the leadership team and president of the CSEA bargaining unit. I want to take a moment to, in my comments, just to say thank you to Miss Annie Nolan, who I greatly enjoy working with, and to her team. It was a great collaboration, probably the best collaborative effort we've enjoyed together so far in my 11 months with the district. I'm happy to take any questions on this.
I have one question. So
Go ahead.
this is, we approve it, but then they still have to ratify it, correct? CSEA has to vote, take a ratification vote?
They're going to review it with their local area headquarters or management to determine if they have to do that or not. And they will take it through their own legal processes as they like to do in their process. So that question remains to be determined.
Okay. So having said that, I would move to approve the MOU to meet the requirements of AB 86.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. Any other discussion? We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzeri?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And thank you very much to Miss Annie Nolan, CSEA, and all who came together to bring that agreement to fruition. As trustee Mayo said earlier with the Teamsters as well, it's really great to see these agreements coming together so that we can all move forward for a successful school year next year. So thank you very much. So that moves us to item 17.8, review and potential approval of 2021 summer school one-time compensation rate.
Thank you very much again. This is coming back to your review. You've already approved this, except we had to make one or two small tweaks and just to do our due diligence. We are trying to implement as many practices and policies and make sure all of our Ts are crossed and Is are dotted so that payroll has a smooth, hopefully, time in the next couple of weeks as we end summer school soon. So this is just coming back because we had one or two small changes and we wanted to bring it back to you for another vote.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the 2021 summer school one-time compensation rate.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee McFerrin. We'll take any discussion. Always happy to compensate our summer school employees well. All right, we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Nzeri?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. All right, 17.9, review and potential approval of the classified job description for food and nutrition services warehouse attendant truck driver and the new proposed salary range in comparison to the old salary range.
So this job description was brought up from Director Dominic Machi with the collaboration of the Teamsters as they get ready for the new food and service warehouse.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion on this item?
I would make a motion to approve the classified job description for food nutrition services warehouse attendant truck driver and the new proposed salary range of 472.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. A motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Nzewi. Any further discussion?
I just have one comment. I had asked a question about whether computer skills would be required by the truck drive, by these employees for this particular type of work. And the response was that this wasn't negotiated with the Teamsters bargaining unit. Therefore, we couldn't amend the item tonight as it was being presented. My rationale for asking that question is because I don't have personal experience, but I know in many warehouses, computer systems, tablets, and wanding are used for warehouse and by truck drivers. And I just felt that this would be a beneficial addition to the job description. And I had understood from a couple of years ago, so I'm dating myself, that we were going to include computer experience, knowledge, some sort of experience with most of our job descriptions. So I hope that we can consider those types of technology that may be important as we work to improve our job descriptions and make the job descriptions relative and comparable to the rest of the industry. So I'm in support of the motion, but anyway, just a comment.
I think maybe since several years ago, it's only old people like us that have issues with computers.
I'm doing
I think
fine.
anyone we're gonna hire is gonna know better than us.
All right, thank you very much. That is something definitely to be considered. Much appreciated. All right, we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And yet another example of collaboration with our employees. All right, that takes us to item 17.10. Review and potential approval of classified job description for senior secretary alternative small schools and the 2021 CST reclassification committee recommendations.
So the CST reclassification committee recommendations were in line with the process outlined in their contract. Special shout out to their president, Carmen Torones Torres. When one of the results of that, we were facing a difficult decision on what to do as a part of that reclassification committee, and Carmen came up with a great solution, which was the senior secretary alternative small schools job description, which we believe helped both in this situation and will help us out in the future also.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the classified job description for senior secretary alternative small schools and the 2021 CST reclassification committee recommendations.
Second?
All right, thank you. Motion by trustee Nzewi, second by trustee McFerrin. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And thank you very much, Carmen Torones Torres, and see all of CST for your cooperation on this item. All right. That moves us to 17.11, review and potential approval of the new classified job description of Adult Education Student Information System, SIS Specialist, and the new proposed salary range.
This particular job description had been in the works for a number of years. I was glad to see it finally come to fruition, working with Director Victoria Abate and again, Carmen Torres Torres.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the classified job description for Adult Education Student Information System Specialist and the new proposed salary range of 477.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. Any discussion? Take it to a vote. Trustee Alas?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. Item 17.12, review and potential approval of new certificated teaching position, enrichment and support teacher.
Thank you. Good evening. This is coming to you, board members, for your review and potential approval. As you may recall, this year, for the first time, we're not going back to the model where we had PE teachers covering for 4th and 5th grade preparation period in our elementary schools. We are instead bringing to you a new position entitled Enrichment and Support Teacher. We had a very productive day today for about 6 hours or so, 5 or 6 hours, negotiating the impact of this. So different than classified, the certificated bargaining unit can negotiate the impact of a job description. We did start bargaining with them a few weeks ago, and we will be back at that again tomorrow. And so far, it's going very well in terms of the collaboration. Both sides know we don't always get everything we want, but for this pilot program, for our first time through, we are negotiating as we go along, and this is tonight for your approval of the position, this job description itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a motion on this item?
I move to approve the new certificated teacher position, enrichment and support teacher job description.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion by trustee Nzewi, second by trustee Alas. Is there any discussion? Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, trustee Mayo.
So when the title says enrichment and support teacher, but in the qualification, it says background in teaching Common Core, ELA, and mathematics standards. So will the enrichment be limited to those topics? Because my mind for enrichment goes somewhere else.
Right now, the position itself is fairly broad, particularly if you look at the overview in terms of content areas. But I do appreciate what you pointed out in terms of the qualifications. So our intent right now is to focus on science and math. And that is also part of our conversation today and tomorrow with the bargaining unit as well. So our conversation so far with educational services has been that if we're going in and we have additional staff to support our students, that we feel like it should be based around STEM, including science, math, technology, and engineering.
Okay.
So that is kind of the focus right now.
All right.
So it won't
Thank-
just be limited to math.
Thank you.
So if a student needs support in reading, would that not be through this position?
Well, certainly, from an educational standpoint, we would hope that reading is also happening even in math and the science content areas. But to your question more, when they are not covering for 4th and 5th grade teachers, because the schedules do have other time available and built in, the description and the negotiation that we're working with Medea on allows the teachers to also push in the classes, work with small groups. So I don't believe that we have narrowly restricted those times at this point. So yes, it could. I believe it can be reading support in terms of when they're helping other students. Although in an ideal world, I think they could still keep focusing on science and math if possible.
Okay, I believe there's a comment card. Speaker card? Is that Mr. Mims? Come on up, Mr. Mims.
Don't fall.
My question is, kind of falling back on trustee Maya was raising a question about another position earlier. And on this position here, does the person require a high school diploma? I mean, it doesn't even have a high school diploma.
Says BCLAD.
I'm sorry.
I apologize.
So I can answer the question if you like, board members. So the CLAD or B-CLAD certification is something somebody attains after they complete college. Then in California, they attend for another year of studies and they can get their teaching credential. So because of that, under the qualifications, it will be required that this is completed after completing college.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. But if it's not here looking at me, then it does not exist. I mean, I'm hearing that, but why not just put down, a BA degree CLAD? I mean, that's being transparent, because I'm looking at this here, and I don't see any qualification. I don't see a high school diploma. I don't see I don't see a teaching position. And I'm hearing what you're saying, but the CLAD. And I'm trying to figure out, well, is this a teacher? Because on number 13, this says provides and maintains adequate lesson plans and instructions in the case of known absences. So is this a teacher position?
Well, if you keep going though, it says valid California teaching credential, CLAD or B-CLAD certification, and then the other hiring things. So it does say at the very bottom and under qualifications.
Okay, I missed that one. Then.
That's okay.
I mean, I can't get them all.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back.
We appreciate the question, sir. It's a good question. It's a very good question.
Keep us on our toes.
All right, any other questions, discussion on this item? All right, I appreciate that. This appears to really align with our SIR report and the kind of interventions that we want to be able to have the flexibility to provide to our students as needs are identified. So this seems to be a really good fit as we move forward and identify student need. So, all right, did we have a motion on this item?
We had a motion.
We did. Oh, thank you. All right, so we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi. Yes. Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. Okay, so that takes us to item 17.13, review and potential approval of additional certificated management position director.
Thank you very much. Board members, it is extremely important to myself and to Dr. Scudero, and I think to the superintendent, that we are doing everything we can and we are structured. Oops, that was fast. And that we are structured in every way we can to best support all 5 of our bargaining units and our 4,000 to 4,500 employees. So we are asking and recommending that we return to the level of staffing that we had in 2008 when the economy kind of took a crash in California, and that we can be better structured to get the work done, and so that we can actually also have the ability to make improvements that will be long lasting in the district, so that it's not tied to just my tenure here or Dr. Scudero's tenure. And that is what we're endeavoring to do.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the creation of the position of second director of human resources, and just say that, because I know we get criticized a lot, but we also get a lot of concerns expressed to us about our HR department. Not any disparagement to the people that work there, but they're really overloaded. So when you want to fix a problem, generally speaking, you have to spend money to do that. So that's why I'm supporting this.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Mayo. Any other discussion or questions? Okay. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Ellis?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you. Item 17.14, review and potential approval of revision of job description for Human Resource Assistant 2.
Yes, good evening again, and thank you. This was developed in collaboration, I'm very happy to say, with Ms. Carmen Toronas Torres and her leadership team. We are similarly endeavoring in our restructuring of HR, as you may have heard me say in the past, so that we don't have one person doing X, Y, and Z, and one person doing A, B, and C, so that when this person breaks a leg, we hope not, but right, that we're not in a big hole. So we're endeavoring to flatten our department so that there is much more flexibility. And this job description with CST's approval gives us that and also helps some of our employees as well.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the revised job description for Human Resource Assistant 2.
A second.
All right, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Nzewi. Any discussion on this item? Pretty straightforward. Another great collaboration. All right, we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Alas?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and our last business item of the night, item 1715, review and potential approval of Student Advisory Committee, SAC bylaws. Dr. Clark.
So I'm very excited to bring this item forward, as I've been here for the last 11 months or whatnot. I want to be known as a leader who's flexible and who can adjust what we're doing. And so this particular group was sort of formed by our student trustee, and she started to kind of realize a goal that we as a district have had but haven't quite been able to actually reach it, and that was really to bring student voice to the table in an organized fashion. And so on her own, she organized a group of students who started to discuss just different ways that we can continue to support students and continue to make this a better place for young people to thrive and learn. And so again, and I think that Dr. Rubio brought it up in one of his last presentations, where we want to find something that's sustainable and it's not necessarily tied to one particular person. And so in her efforts to sustain this group, and we are all in full support of this, she penned some bylaws that could help govern this community of students. And so what we're presenting tonight is a stab at formalizing this process. And we know as time goes on that it'll have to be adjusted, and we'll have to work at making it so that it is inclusive of all, but it does follow all the it's too late for me to try to pronounce it, but to follow the guidance of things of public meetings and the Brown Act and things of that nature. So I do want Trustee Alas to talk on this group, but I am bringing this forward for potential approval from the board. So Trustee Alas.
Thank you so much, staff and Dr. Clark, for working on this item. The Student Advisory Committee, which originally started as the Student District Advisory Committee, because I wanted to differentiate from the MDEDF SAC, which is also the same name, was meant to be a vehicle for student voice to impact what the student board member thought and said and voted on at the school board meetings, and by proxy, the superintendent and the school board. So I wanted to make this group as equitable and inclusive as possible. So I made it open to middle and high school students, a cross section of students from across the district, including our alternative education schools. I'm hoping that we expand that population in our group as well. And I really wanted it to be an avenue for students to feel heard, and for me as a student board member and the subsequent student board members to have a group to rely on. To have a group that can advise them and report on what is going on at their specific sites, because really it is one student representing about 30,000 students right on this board. And I wanted to make sure that every student was being heard. So that's what this group is for. And these bylaws, this document really was a product of student voice and of student input. Dr. Clark was actually at the meeting where our inaugural Student Advisory Committee met and reviewed the original document and made edits and were very engaged. And this was on the second to last day of school. It was on June 2nd that we came together and we reviewed the bylaws to really make it as concrete as possible and to make this a lasting group in MDUSD. So I'm very excited to bring this forward to the board. I'm very excited about the amount of work that went into this. I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud of all of the students who served on that inaugural committee, and I'm excited to see it flourish in the future.
Thank you so much, Trustee Alas, and to all of the students who put so much work into putting this together. I think this would not have happened if it weren't for the initiative and the work that each of you put into it and made it possible to come to this meeting tonight and be considered by the board before you leave this table. So very excited to have this on the agenda tonight. Do we have a motion on this item?
I would, here, I need to pull it up. I would motion that we approve the item 17.15, the Student Advisory Committee bylaws.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Trustee Alas and a second by Trustee Mason. Any discussion?
I have, would like to make some comments, please. I do appreciate the work that you undertook with the committee and your inclusionary efforts of the middle school students and especially the alternative education students. That's a voice that we don't hear very frequently, and it's important for us in the district to receive them. And bylaws are one of my favorite things, so that's something I've done for many years in my work with PTA. And I did talk to CAC Chair Dorothy Weisenberger, and she indicated that the CAC bylaws have to be approved by the Board of Education as well as the amendments. And although we received some information that that's not required of committees, it's something that's important to me because it brings it back to the board for consideration and brings it to the, it refreshes it in everyone's memory. And it's not, my amendment is not to be punitive or controlling. It's just that I feel that it's important for the Board of Education. So I would move, so this would be an amendment to the main motion. I would move that in Article 10 amendments, we insert a new section 2 that would say bylaw amendments shall be approved by the Board of Education. Because we are in, through this action, we're approving the original document, and then subsequently we would be reviewing and approving the amendments.
Okay, so I hear that as an amendment to the motion.
Right.
Correct. Okay.
There has to be a second.
Do we have a second on this amendment?
I just wanted to put into context what Dr. Clark sent out in regards to this question, because I did see that it was one of the questions. It says that each advisory committee revises and approves their own bylaws, so they don't usually bring it to the board for final approval. However, as Trustee Mayo said, the Budget Advisory Committee has board approved focus areas. And so any changes would be brought to the board since there are no bylaws for that particular committee.
There are no bylaws.
That's what so it says.
The Budget Advisory Committee has a committee charge. It doesn't have bylaws.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this committee is creating bylaws, which are, the Board of Education would also approve the committee charge when a committee is established. That's there are four board policies around committees. board bylaws, 9130. There's 1220 community relations, AR 1200 citizens advisory committees, and then board policy 2230, which is representative and deliberative groups. So is information there. We can just vote it down. I just feel it was important that we treat advisory committees similarly fashion.
And I
for the
guess
board.
when I looked at it, I was looking, because in the nonprofit world, when you establish, you have to get your bylaws approved. But then once they're approved, it's up to that sitting board that they elect to make changes. And then the state stays out of it from there forward. And so I kind of look at it that way. The initial bylaws come to us. And then as they move forward, if that group wanted to make changes, then they can make changes.
We have a public comment, Mr. Mims?
So let me understand this. Any district sponsored committee, they operate under Brown Act.
Yeah.
So bylaws and everything else has to come before the board. Everything, all changes made. I mean, if it's not district sponsored, then it's a different story. But if it's district sponsored, and as far as your bylaws have to be voted on too. But anyway, that's what I wanted, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mims. So, Dr. Clark, do you want to clarify, I guess what I'm hearing from trustee Alas is that the other similar committees do not have this provision. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I don't have that information right at my fingertips right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Outstanding.
All right, so we have an amendment on the table. Do we have a second to the amendment?
I will second the motion. Because I just wanted to say because that was what the question said, the answer to the question said. So that was probably a staff who put that there. So I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have an amendment to the motion by trustee Mayo and a second to the amendment by trustee Ellis. Okay, any other discussion? We will take this to a vote. Trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason. Oh, excuse me, let me clarify what we are voting on. We have a motion on the floor with an amendment. So this vote would be, it's because the amendment received a second. So we are now voting on the motion to approve the bylaws with
No.
the amendment. Excuse me.
We have to approve the amendment first, and then we adopt the main motion if, with the amendment, if that's approved.
Okay, thank you. Parliamentary procedure. Here we go. All right, so what we are voting on, to clarify to everyone, is the amendment by itself. Okay, so the amendment is to add the section 2 that requires any amendments to these bylaws to come back to the school board. Just that was in my own words. Ms. Mayo already
That's it.
stated the amendment.
That was it.
Okay, so this vote is specifically on that amendment, and then we will vote on the whole thing after that. Okay, so everybody clear? Thank you. Okay, so trustee Alas.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
All right, I also vote yes. The motion of the amendment passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So now we have that amendment in along with the original motion. So now we will move to vote. Is there any more discussion? Okay, so we will move to vote on the original motion with the amendment included here now. And we'll start with trustee Ellis.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And I think this will create an excellent structure moving forward. I think so many of the things that we've talked about tonight have to do with that, trying to build in the framework for sustainability moving forward. In increasing student voice and increasing welcoming communities in so many ways. So thank you for that. So this moves us to our last item of the night, other than future agenda items. So 18.0 board member reports. Trustee Ellis, would you like to go first or last? Do you want to?
Well, I had a little goodbye I could say at the end, so I'll say it. I'll go last.
You want to go last? Okay, all right. So trustee Mayo, let's start with you.
Seems like I spent a lot of time reviewing the items for this agenda, though it was a labor of love, I think. At least I wasn't in, my husband had his time to himself, let's put it that way. I did want to share with the board members that there is a book entitled The Governance Core: School Boards, Superintendents, and Schools Working Together. It's written by Davis Campbell, and the CSBA is having a Masters in Governance Alumni Association Summer Book Club, and it will we will be working with Davis Campbell and during the process. It's 4 Saturdays. I won't be able to participate in all 4, but I'm going to sign up for it. I have done some work in my previous work with PTA with Davis Campbell and found it to be very informative. And I just wanted to share that I will be participating in that. And if anyone else wants to join us, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I definitely found that book and the MIG Masters in Governance training to be very, very helpful. So I would highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. And the group, if you have 4 Saturdays in the summer to participate. All right, Trustee Mason.
There has not been much to do with the school except preparing for this meeting. But I do want to say and share that while it was very exciting to see the Juneteenth be official because of citizens like Dr. Mims in the Bay Point and Pittsburgh community, as long as I can remember, we have celebrated Juneteenth. So thank you for that, Mr. Mims.
All right, thank you very much, Trustee Mason. Trustee Nzeri.
And we're at the end, we're brief. There's the key. I want to, this was done by Rosie Reed during the public comment, but I want to also congratulate the Ignacio Valley High School students, Kaya Morgan, Mark Katapusan, Natalie Flores, Kimberly Galaga, and Nikki McNabb, and Jennifer Bonifacio Rodriguez. I apologize for any butchering I may have done. They will be recognized this weekend for their work on the YB mascot removal at the Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center's annual meeting. And additionally, Horizon High School graduate Alex Hagerstrand will be honored for their efforts throughout high school to make MDUSD schools more inclusive and anti-racist. So I just want to congratulate these wonderful students. I'd like to say I'm looking forward to summer. I'm looking forward to meeting people live and in living color. I'm looking forward to taking the time to refresh, to learn, and to come back in August an even stronger board member. So to that end, I'll be hosting walk and talks through the month of July and beyond. And the first one will be next Thursday, as long as it's under 100 degrees, July 1st, and every other Thursday through July at 7 p.m. The locations will change, but the first one will be at Ellis Lake Park in Concord. And then the next walk will be on Saturday, July 10th and the 24th at 7:30 a.m. because we have to beat the heat. I'll share the dates and times and locations on my social media, but I hope that folks will come out and get your steps in with me to, get out of the COVID slump. I look forward to meeting other members of our community, and I hope you'll allow me to get to know you. So please, someone show up next Thursday.
Thank you so much, Trustee Nzeri. What a creative idea. I love it. Wonderful.
Did we not move?
The meeting's not over yet. We have a few more left. Okay. Trustee McFerrin.
So last week I attended the last budget advisory committee meeting of the year. And that was, there was a lot of engagement in that meeting. We were talking primarily about the possibility of refinancing our bonds. Since interest rates are so low, this would save taxpayers a significant amount of money, which this was on the agenda today, hopefully somewhere around $4 million. And so that was wonderful to hear about, that possibility. Looking forward to kind of seeing whatever options are. We also talked about our new calendar for next year. Our first meeting will be September 1st. We'll do introductions. We'll review the FICMAT report potentially. And then we're not sure if this meeting will be in person or on Zoom. But I would just like to encourage people. These are meetings that are open to the public. And I hope that you'll attend if you're interested in learning more about our district budget. Between last week and this week, I was able to visit a couple more school sites to see how summer school is going. I went to Silverwood and I was able to observe rising first graders, rising second graders, and rising third graders. I saw students engaged in different kind of phonics lessons and also doing a lot of like kind of fun learning games. And so I was able to talk with some of the teachers and I was really impressed by them. One teacher commented something along the lines of, we thought that the kids were going to need to learn, X, Y, and Z, but when we met the kids, we really had to completely change our plan. And that wasn't a statement of complaint. It was just kind of a statement of we get the kids, we figure out what they need, and then we serve them. And so I really appreciated those efforts, especially because our elementary school teachers are not used to doing summer school. So this was a huge lift for them. And I really could see it. I could see it in the students, how much they appreciate summer school and how much it's going to benefit them moving forward. I was also able to visit Olympic today, and I had been really wanting to go there. I really have a lot of space in my heart for alternative education, which is where I started my teaching career. And so I did just want to let everyone know that that Olympic was awarded the Model Continuation High School status in March. It's a 3-year term. This is pretty significant. So shout out to Olympic. I'm really proud of you for achieving this. The staff, the administration, the students, everyone at Olympic. I think this is just a huge accomplishment. And I also want to share that I'm very proud of the students at the YV Mascot Removal Committee for their work. And it's really exciting to see them receive an award from the Mount Diablo Peace and Justice Center. And so, Trustee and say we already said it, but just as a reminder, that ceremony will take place this coming Saturday from 10 o'clock until noon. And that's all I have to share this evening.
All right, thank you very much, Trustee McFerrin. So I guess I'll go next so that Trustee Ellis can close us out. I want to start by saying thank you so much to Vice President Deborah Mason for presiding over the last board meeting since I could not be here. I watched the recording and really appreciate how you run a meeting so well and so inclusively. So thank you very much. I also attended the Budget Advisory Committee, and yeah, I think everyone was very excited about the possibility of saving our taxpayers $4 million with the GO bonds. And so it's great to see our financial team really working on things like that and getting some really great advice from the members of the Budget Advisory Committee as they go forward. I also met with Samantha Brown from ADL to learn about their programs, including the No Place for Hate School program, which has been very successful in neighboring school districts, including, I believe, 18 of San Ramon schools have been No Place for Hate schools. So there are models right around us of how to do that. And they stand ready to be able to support any and all of our schools that want to implement that program. So that was really exciting to learn about. Also met with JCRC to learn about their programs. They were very excited about our Jewish American Heritage Resolution and actually are now sharing it out as a model for other school districts throughout the state. They also have the JCL literacy program, which I was not aware of, but is already in action in a number of our schools. here in the district and could expand to any of our Title I schools where their volunteers come and read with elementary school students. Also attended a Boys and Girls Club of Contra Costa event that was very exciting because their executive directors really got a big vision to expand throughout the county, including in particular the city of Concord. And that could be really, really great for many, many of our students to have the access to more enrichment outside of school and in partnership with our school district. So they're looking to partner in whatever ways they can. And to that end, they started a pop-up summer camp in Concord at Cambridge Park, which many of our students have taken advantage of. So that was very exciting. Appreciated sharing out about the Juneteenth celebrations in Pittsburgh and Antioch, as well as just continuing to share out anything that I get in terms of Spanish translated flyers about the COVID vaccines and the prizes associated with them. United Latino Voices, Monument Impact, many groups have been working to make sure that the information's getting out there about the vaccine so that our communities can be as healthy as possible by the time we open up school full time. So excited about the summer programs that have been going on, as Trustee McFerrin referred to, just hearing from the sixth graders who have been, gathering, the incoming sixth graders who've been able to meet at their school sites and get to know the place and be ready to hit the ground running in the fall with having, their friends and colleagues meeting some of their teachers already. Those are the kinds of social emotional things that we need to be doing and are doing, which is really great to see. Also excited about the Young Audiences Summer Art Camp that was funded by the Lesher Foundation, as well as the MD EDF, where they have, professional artists coming in and doing these hands-on art programs at Wren and El Monte. And I'd love to really see some photos and things of that and share that out as well. Lastly, I just have so much gratitude to this board team because each and every one of you, you do your homework. You look at every single item, you ask questions, you bring your perspective to the table, you work hard. And those of us who have been here through last summer didn't have a break last July either. So it's been nonstop for quite some time. But I'm so hopeful. I think we're so much on the right track. We had an amazing process of evaluation of the superintendent, Dr. Clark. We are so thankful for you and your hard work and your teamwork with us as a board. And so I hope that everyone does take a full break in July so that we can hit the ground running in August. All right. And with that, I will leave it to Ms. Trustee Alas.
Good evening, everybody. So this is my last board report ever. Bittersweet, I know. I have a couple of things to report on that I have done, and then I have a little goodbye. Just today, I was able to present at the Ed 100 Summer Academy for student leaders. I was speaking on behalf of Gen Up, which is an education advocacy organization based here in California and completely student-led. And while I was scrolling through the attendees list, I was able to see a couple MDSD student names that I recognize. So our district is being represented at this Summer Academy. So that is something that we should be very, very proud about. I recently met with the Mount Diablo Education Foundation, SAC, on recruitment for the following year for members onto that student advisory committee. And I am happy to say that we're going to be meeting for the first time in person this Friday, where we will be filming our promotional video in order to recruit students to that group. So that's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the student leaders that come out of that. And I am also going to be looking forward to onboarding the new SBM, Kalina Fowler. I am incredibly excited to meet her and to teach her just everything that I've learned this year and to teach her, give her all the resources that I've been able to acquire throughout my time as a student board member. I have learned an incredible amount during my time on the board about inclusivity, the need to hear every student perspective, about equity and the need to prioritize vulnerable populations, and about establishing a seat at the table. My position is meant to elevate student voice in and out of board meetings and to serve as a direct reminder to the board that every decision we make affects students the most. I am proud that my last board meeting included the passage of Excused Mental Health Days for students, eliminating that stigma that can accompany having a mental health emergency, which is a project that I've been working on since the beginning of my tenure on the board. And also the inclusive school logo resolution that will make sure that our schools are more actively anti-racist as we transition away from offensive Indigenous imagery. As I said before, I am looking forward to onboarding the new student board member. And my only ask of you as I leave this board, of you, the board, and of the MBOC community, is to please continue honoring student voice at this table the way you have done for me. I am incredibly honored to have been given the opportunity to serve on this board. I would like to thank staff and every person who I've directed so many emails at, asking questions, Dr. Clark for meeting with me every week and being patient with me, the board for all of your support, President Cowan for your support since the very beginning in creating this position. I've had a blast. I've learned so much. I am a better person, a better human being, a better thinker and decision maker because of this board. And it's all thanks to you. So thank you very much.
Trustee Alas, you will be missed. But we know you'll be back, and we know that you will mentor the person who follows in your footsteps. All right, so with that, we have nothing carried over from closed session. And are there any future agenda items that anyone wants to discuss? Pretty sure we're all aware what those are. All right, so with that, we adjourn this meeting at 9:04 p.m.